All right. So, good morning, everybody. Again, we had experienced a little bit of technical difficulties. So just wanted to make sure that we got those technical difficulties straightened out for you. And again, thank you so much for your patience in joining us. All right. So what we're doing is we are actually going over factoring trinomials or quadratic expressions. Same difference. It's the same thing. Okay. You can use those interchangeably if you like. And so what we have done, and I'll go back to this first slide here. What we've done is I have copied and pasted 4 problems from a worksheet. And what we've done is we had matched the definitions of the results to each problem. So for example, because we have 2 additional addition signs here, we said that when you factor your trinomial, your binomials will be positive. Okay. So for this one, we have a negative sign and a positive sign. We said that when you have, when your trinomial has a negative sign and then a positive sign, both of your binomials will be negative. And we did the same thing here for numbers 10 and 12, and we just matched those. So now what we're doing is we are going to prove this point to see if we are absolutely correct. Okay. So again, we are just reinforcing the rules of factoring trinomials, just reinforcing those rules and making sure we understand how the process works. All right. So for the first one, we said b squared plus 16b plus 64. Now, our first rule is to find the factors of the third term. My third term is 64, which is the number by itself. So what I have done, I have went ahead and I put all of the factors of 64. Remember, factors are numbers that you multiply together, thus the multiplication sign in the middle. All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to lock these things so that way they won't be all over the place. All right. So now with the help of my handy dandy floating toolbar here, I am going to write out the second rule here. Okay, so from those factors, you're going to find the sum of the second term. Okay, so my second term in this instance would be 16. Now remember, it's not going to be 16b. So we're only just dealing with the numbers for the second and the third term because the first term does not have a coefficient in front of it. Well, it does. It's just 1. Okay. So it has a coefficient. Let me make sure we get that. All right. Uh-oh. All right. Uh-oh. All right. So now what I'm going to do is simple. I'm now going to take those same numbers, but this time I'm going to add them. So I'm going to say 1 plus 64. Well, I know that doesn't give me 16. Okay, that gives me 65. So I know those are not my numbers. Then I'm going to say 2 plus 32. I know that doesn't give me the number that I'm looking for. That gives me 34. Okay, then I'm going to say 4. Oh, not 3. 4 plus 6. Well, I know that doesn't give me the number that I'm looking for. So that means I am only now left with 8 plus 8. I keep putting the 6. Okay, 8 plus 8. And that gives me 16. Okay, so what this basically means is this. The numbers, and I'm going to go ahead and lock. Okay, I can't. Okay. All right. Go ahead and lock that. So that way it can stay in place. So what that means is I am going to be using 8. I'll just underline it. I'm going to be using these 2 numbers, 8 and 8, in my binomial. Okay, so that's what that means. And then my third step and my final step in all of this is going to be factor the first term. So my first term is going to be b squared. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to move that up here. So remember, when you have a coefficient of 1, which is the number that you can't see, okay, we're simply just going to break that down to b times b. Okay. So what that means is I am going to be using both b's in my in my binomial. So I'm going to be using b and b, and I'm going to be using 8 and 8. So my final answer in all of this is going to be simple. B plus 8, and that's going to be multiplied by b plus 8. Okay. So again, I just want to show you the breakdown of how I got b plus 8 times b plus 8. So I have my first b, so I have b plus 8, because remember, my 8 is positive, and then I have b plus the other 8, which makes it positive. Now, there is another way that you can simply write this problem. So this way is actually fine. This way is correct. So a lot of times, you can write an answer in many different formats and in many different ways. So in this particular instance, you can do just that. And I'm going to write it like this. B plus 8 squared. Hopefully y'all can see that too. Matter of fact, I can't even see it. So I know y'all can't see it. Okay. Matter of fact. So that way you all can see it for the people that's watching the playback. All right. So I have B plus 8 squared. Okay. Now, Ms. Hampton, why did you write the answer that way when the answer is already written? Okay. That's in case some of you all are thinking that. Remember, there are many different ways to not only solve a problem, there's also many different ways you can write a problem. So just understand that b plus 8 times b plus 8, this is the simplified version of writing that. You necessarily don't have to write it out this way. But in the event that you're taking your math GED test and you see something like this, just know that these two things are equal. So b plus 8 squared is the same thing as me writing out b plus 8 times b plus 8. So hopefully that part makes sense. Okay. So do I have any questions about this particular problem? Well, no news is good news to me. So we're just going to go ahead and keep it pushing. But remember, if you have a question, please make sure that you unmute yourself and I can answer the question and then put yourself back on mute. So that way, we can make sure that everyone that's watching the playback can hear us clearly. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the, I am going to go ahead and go to the next problem, but I have to remember it first because I don't remember it. So we have x squared minus 4x plus 24. So based on the rule here, what we said was when you have a trinomial that has a negative sign first and then a positive sign, both of your binomials will be negative. So let us see if that is actually true. Let's find out. Let us find out. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and type this in. Okay. So we have, I think it was x squared. Make sure it was x squared uh, minus 4x, and then we said plus 24. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. Hey, lock that in place to make sure it doesn't move anywhere. All right. So now the good news is I have all of my steps up here, so I don't necessarily have to, rewrite them. So you can already see the steps. So my first step is to find the factors of the third term. My third term is going to be 24. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type out all my factors of positive 24. Okay, I'm going to make that. All right. So I have 1 times 24. Uh-oh. I don't like how I wrote that. All right. Then I have 2 times 12. I have 3 times 8. Then I have 4 times 6. All right. So those are all of my factors. Okay. If I multiply those numbers together, those numbers will give me 24. Okay. Now, my next step says from those factors, you're going to find the sum of the second term. So my second term is going to be negative 4. But remember, we cannot add two negative numbers together to give us a positive. So that means I'm going to now change, and I'm going to now change my positive integers to negative ones, because remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm simply just going to copy. Okay. And then I'm just going to add negative signs in front of them. I'm learning all kind of new tricks here. All right. So I'm just going to put negative signs in front of them. Because remember, a negative times a negative gives me that positive. Make this. All right, there we go. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So now that I've done this, that lets me know, and I'm going to go ahead and lock this too, so that way it can stay in place. What that lets me know is I'm no longer going to use my positive integers here. I'm now only going to use my negative ones. Okay. So now, again, what I'm going to do, okay, copy. Undo all of that. Okay. Copy. All right. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply now, instead of multiplying these, I'm going to change this sign to addition, because my second step tells me that I have to now add the same numbers to find my middle term. And my middle term is negative 4. So now I'm just going to put a addition sign here. Just going to change that. So I'm not changing my numbers, so to speak. I'm only changing the sign because of the second step. Now, when I do this, the answer that I'm looking for is -4. Okay. So when I add this, this is going to give me what, a -25. All right. Then when I add that, that's going to give me a -14. Okay. That's going to give me a -11. Okay. And then that of course is going to give me a -10. It looks like we have a problem. So I did everything I was supposed to do, right? I added my numbers, the same numbers from over here. I added them, but none of these equal -4. So it means something. And I want to make sure that you catch this. This is very important. There is no need in me going on to the third step because I am stuck at the second step. Okay? I'm stuck. So I'm going to go back here. Let me move this up just a smidge. All right. So my third term, we recognize that our third term was +24. Okay, so we recognize that. Good news. So I found all the terms that if I multiplied them, I'm sorry, all of the numbers that if I multiply them together would give me a 24. Then my second term, and I'm going to type all this out so that way the people in the playback can see it. Okay. My second term was -4. But again, we have a serious problem. The problem is none of these add up to -4. So what do you think that means? Do you think it means something? Do you think we don't have an answer? What are your thoughts? And if you don't know, you can just simply say, Miss Hampton, I don't know what any of this means.
Can I say no enough information?
Ma'am?
Can I say no enough information on the
Oh,
question?
okay. So Miss Philomena, you're saying is not enough information. Okay. Okay, so I will go ahead and type that out. All right. What about you, Mr. Mc? Whoa. What about you, Mr. McFadden? What are your thoughts? Okay, so not enough information.
I don't know, Miss Hampton, to be honest.
Okay, and that's okay. That's what I want. Don't lie to me. Always tell me the truth. So you say you don't know, Mr. McFadden. I will take that because it's okay not to know. All right. So when we when we get into the quadratic formula, I am going to use the same problem again. Okay, so I want you to remember this problem. I want you to write it down and keep it in the forefront of your memory because you are going to see this problem again, and I am going to use the quadratic formula to prove something to you. Okay, but for right now, this problem is not factorable. The reason why this problem is not factorable is because of this. None of these answers match my second term. So because none of those answers match my second term, I don't have to do the third step, which is factor the first term, which was x squared, because it's not going to make any sense. I don't have any numbers that if I add them together will give me a -4. But I do have numbers over here that if I multiply them together will give me 24. So you may come across some problems on your math GED exam. And I'm just telling you, because that's what I do. You may come across some problems that will be just like this. You have to make sure, number one, that you know your integers and that you know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them. And you also have to make sure that you recognize how your terms work, if that makes any sense. Because remember, we followed all the rules, but yet we don't have a -4 over here. So because we cannot find our second term using the numbers, that problem is not factorable. Okay. And again, when we get into the quadratic formula, which will definitely be next week, because this is just another layer on top of these quadratic expressions and stuff, I'm going to prove that to you. Okay. So I want you to.
So what would you put as your answer on the test?
There is no answer. Or like Miss Philomena said, it could say not enough information given. It can say no answer, or it can say this problem is non-factorable. So that's what you would pick.
Oh, okay.
So I'm here to let you all know. I know we've been conditioned to to solve every math problem because all math problems have an answer. I just debunked the myth. Some math problems don't have an answer to them. They are non-factorable, meaning they don't have an answer. It's kind of like with slope. You remember how we talked about the 4 different types of slope and how you have a positive slope, a negative slope, zero slope, and an undefined slope, right? Think of this problem as an undefined slope, if that makes any sense to anybody that's watching this playback video. Okay. So I want you to make sure that you remember this, because we will revisit this particular problem on next week. That I can guarantee. So that way I can prove to you the reason why this does not have an answer. Does that make sense? I guess it does, because it's cool. All right. All right. So now what I want to do is this. Before I go on to the next slide, are there any questions at all? Now remember, I get it and I understand that this is a lot to take in, and especially with the platform and how I'm presenting it to you. But the beautiful thing is, you are more than welcome to watch these wonderful playback videos so that way you can take your notes and you can take your time with processing all of this information, okay? So that's the beautiful thing about this. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to copy. All right. So I'm going to go to another slide and I am going to paste this stuff. Okay. All right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the third problem, which was a squared plus 11a plus 18. Okay, so a squared. All right, so I'm going to type this out. A squared. All right. A squared plus 11a plus 18. Oh, all right. So that is our trinomial. This is what we're working with right here. I'm gonna go ahead and move that way. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and lock it in place so that way it won't move. All right. So find the factors of the third term. What is my third term in this particular instance?
18.
Very good, Miss Philomena. 18. All right. So of course, I'm going to change all of these numbers. So I'm going to start off with 1 times 18. And I'm going to go to 2 times 9. And then I'm just going to put in here 3 times 6. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this last one. Okay. So these are all my factors that if I multiply them together will give me 18. Now, from those factors, you're going to find the sum of the second term. What is my second term in this trinomial?
11.
11. Excellent job, Miss Philomena. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to change my numbers here. Copy and paste is my best friend if y'all noticed, okay? All right. So that gives me 19. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to change this to 9. Ah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to underline these numbers. Those, and I'm going to bold them. So these are the numbers I'm going to use, but for the sake of continuity, I'm going to go ahead and show you really 3 plus 6, 9. All right. All right. So I am going to be using 2 and 9 as my binomials, simply as a part of my binomials, because when I add these numbers together, it gives me 11. But when I multiply these numbers together, it gives me my third term, which is 18. All right. And then my last step, it says factor the first term. And my first term is just simply A. I'm just going to change the letter. And I'm going to break it down by A times. So my final answer, when I do all of that, okay, is as follows. It is A plus 2 times A plus 9. Okay. So again, I want to show you where I came up with these numbers. Uh, Trying to make sure these things stay in place. Okay. So I have my A here. So I have A plus 2. Remember, my 2 is positive, so that's what I have up here. A plus 2, and that is multiplied by A plus 9. Okay, so hopefully you all can see that connection between these two A's and these two numbers. And if we go back to our second slide where we had to see that our binomials will be positive, we were correct because we have two addition signs here. So because you have two addition signs in your trinomial, that basically means that you are going to have positive binomials. Okay, so hopefully you all can see that. Okay. All right. So far, we are trucking through these problems. We're getting it in. We're getting it done. And we have one more problem that we're going to do. And that's going to be that. Okay. So now what I want to do is this. Uh, Okay. Copy. Okay. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to write out the last problem that we have here, and I'm simply just going to, just change the numbers and all that good stuff around because it would have taken me forever to, retype everything. So shout out to copy and paste. Copy and paste is my friend. All right. So now I'm going to go to our last problem, and it says n squared minus 5n plus 6. So we already said that when you have a trinomial that has a negative sign first, then a positive sign, both of your binomials will be negative. Now, we have already proven that this one did not fit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually, I'll go ahead and erase it. So although number 8 had a negative sign first and then a positive sign, it was non-factorable. I was going to erase it, but never mind. So I'm going to write non-factor. Okay, so we could not factor this particular problem. Okay, so non-factor. Just to make an inference or an assumption, do you think this one will be non-factorable as well? And you can just say yes or no. Okay, well,
No.
okay. So you say no, Mr. McFadden. So you're saying that this one will be factorable. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Okay. Well, let's see if you're right. Okay, let me go back here real quick and let me type in the problemo here. All right, so we had, was it n? That was n. N squared. Okay, and that was minus what, 5n? Yeah, 5n plus 6. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna lock that in place, making sure that it doesn't move. Now, find the factors of my third term. My third term, wow,
It's
that's
6.
is 6. Excellent, Mr. McFadden. It is 6. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. Okay. And I'm simply going to have 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. That's it. Those are all my factors that if I multiply them together will give me 6. Now, going to take the same situation here, and from those factors, I am going to find the sum of my second term. So my second term would be what?
The 5.
-5, but I'll take it. All right. Now, remember, we have a situation here. I got to go back here, and I now have to make these numbers. I now have to make them negative. I knew that was going to happen. Okay. This is what I'll do. Okay. All right. So now all I'm going to do is just simply make these numbers negative. Because remember, 2 negatives, when I multiply them together, give me a positive. Okay, so now I have -2 times my -3. Okay. All right. So now because I know that my middle term or my second term is -5, I'm only going to be solely focused on these two numbers here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this. Uh-oh. Okay, fine. Oh, undo. All right. It doesn't want me to be great, so I'm just going to write these out. All right, so we have -1 plus a -6. What is -1 plus -6?
-5.
-1 plus -6? -3. So my answer here would be -7. Hey, remember, when we're adding integers, if they have the same sign, it takes that sign. So -1 plus -6 gives us a -7. All right. And then we have our -2 plus -3, and that gives us a -5. So these are the numbers that I want. I'm going to go ahead and underline those, and I'm going to bold them. So these are the numbers that we will be using in our binomial. Okay. 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 And then now what oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So now I'm just going to change my first term to n squared. We're going to break that down, and that's going to be n times n. All right. Okay. Okay. Miss Philomena, you can go ahead and put yourself back on mute. Okay. Thank you so much for your answer. All right. So now what I have is this. I have a -2 and I have a -3. Okay. So this is what I need to move this. Okay. Make sure I move these things down here so I can have enough room. All right. So my final answer when I type out all of this is going to be the following. I want you to stick with me here. We have n minus 2 times n minus 3. Okay. So, Mr. McFadden, you were absolutely correct. This was factorable. It was factorable because we had our two numbers that when we add them together will give us a -5, which is -2 plus -3 gives us a -5. But when we multiply the numbers together, the same numbers, when we get -2 times -3, we get a +6. So therefore, this is our final answer. So good job, Mr. McFadden, on recognizing that you can factor this particular problem. So kudos to you.
So it's factorable.
Thank you,
Yes,
Miss Pat.
ma'am. Oh, you're very welcome, Mr. McFadden. Did you have a question, Miss Philomena?
No, please.
Oh, okay. Woo. All right. So we are actually getting close to the end of our session here. Now, technically, we did do an hour, so you still will get your hour credit for today. What I want you to do is I want you to continue to work on the worksheet that I emailed you yesterday. Okay. Now, the beautiful thing about this is some of the problems we've already done in class. So when I upload this video, you're going to see that some of these problems that are on the worksheet that I emailed you, we've already done them in class. Okay, so that way you can have a further breakdown and a step-by-step instruction on how we derived at these problems. Okay, so I am going to put, oh, okay, I already did that. Hold on, let me see. Okay. Copy. Paste. All right. So what I did here is I just simply said this problem is not factorable. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I put that right there. All right. Okay. So we did a great job today. Hopefully, as we continue to process all of this, hopefully this makes a lot of sense. But if it does not, that's what the playback videos are for. So I want you all to continue to practice with factoring trinomials, or if you want to call them quadratic expressions, they're all the same, really don't matter. I want you to continue to practice that using the steps. And tomorrow we can do this one or two ways, which more than likely I will do this. We will continue on with factoring trinomials, or if you would like to do a potluck session to get your mind off of this, you are more than welcome to just let me know. Remember, please send in your concepts. Text me your concepts so that way I can have time to prepare them, and also I can have time to, get you any extra supplemental worksheets or anything like that. So that way you can have all the extra practice you want. Okay. So y'all just let me know what you want to do.
Example.
Yes,
Now
sir.
tomorrow I might don't make it because I have a meeting to go to.
I'm sad. I'm
So,
real sad.
but I definitely let you know if
Okay.
I can't make it.
Absolutely. Just send me a text, Mr. McFadden. And I will say you're very good at communicating that with me. So I really do appreciate that. But like I said, just let me know. And we'll just make stuff happen. That's what we do. We make things happen around here.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share so that way I can try to process this video for you all. Move toolbar. I don't need you right now. All right. So again, if you have any questions, um, feel free to text me, email me, let me know. But I do want you to continue to work on the worksheet. So for extra practice, and I'm going to go ahead and try to upload this video as quickly and efficiently as I can for y'all. Okay. So I think tomorrow I might just do a potluck just to get our minds off of this. So yeah, tomorrow will be a potluck day. So email me or text me your concepts that you want to go over, so that way you all can be stronger and more confident in those particular areas. Okay, so tomorrow is a potluck day. We're gonna take a break from factoring trinomials unless you want to continue with that. Okay, so just let me know. And again, great job today, everybody. Let's keep the momentum going. We can do it. We're going to push through. We're going to persevere. We ain't got no choice. And as Mr. McFadden always says, we got to take it one day at a time. So again, I appreciate you all. Thank you so very much. And until tomorrow, I love you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I'll see y'all Thursday. Have a blessed and wonderful Wednesday. Bye.
Good job.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Philomena.